Welcome to our video explaining the final paper on climate change. This paper essentially is going to put together all the different elements that were involved in our unit on climate change. Essentially, this will be an opportunity for you to summarize all the things that you have learned in the course of this unit. What is the basis for this paper? First of all, we all recognize that climate change has been a heated topic. That's kind of meant to be a joke there. Heated topic, climate change, global warming. This final paper, though, is not asking you to take a stance by arguing your personal opinion about the topic. In other words, this paper is not an opportunity for a debate or for you to try to persuade somebody of your thoughts on climate change. All it really is an opportunity for you to summarize the things that you've learned so far, been exposed to concerning climate change, not about your opinion regarding those things that you learned. Your opinion you are entitled to, your thoughts you are entitled to, but this is not the place that we're going to be expressing those. Here's the scenario for the final paper. Essentially, what you're going to be doing is writing an opening statement for a debate. We're going to assume that some debates team from Fairmont has come up to you, and the debate team's called Students of Science. And they've come up to you knowing that you're in catastrophic science, knowing that you've just completed a unit on climate change. What they're asking you to do is essentially write down what you know about the topic of climate change. In other words, what is being said today on the topic of global warming and climate change. What the organization wants you to do is gather the information you've learned, heard, read, or seen during the course of this climate change unit to better help them prepare for the debate. Now, when schools debate each other, they do not necessarily know in advance what stance or what side of the argument they are going to have to support. So this paper is not about trying to persuade or actually debate. You're just gathering the information that will be discussed or debated. In other words, you're going to be preparing the opening statement. In this opening statement, you're merely going to discuss the things that you've been exposed to already on the topic in this unit. In other words, if we're going to use the elephant in the room scenario, you're going to lead the elephant into the room. The elephant symbolizing what's being said on the topic of climate change. Then when the actual debate starts, they will begin discussing the things that you present. So you're just going to set the groundwork for the debate by summarizing the different things that you've heard about during this unit. When the debate begins, they'll talk about the elephant that you walked into the room. They'll debate whether the elephant can fly like Dumbo or whether there's actually an elephant even there, if we're continuing with that little proverbial example. So, what are we doing in this paper? You're going to write 6 paragraphs. You're going to write 3 on day 1, and you're going to write 3 on day 2 of the assignment. The 6 paragraphs are as follows. Really, the first 2 paragraphs are introductions. Paragraph 1 is a general introduction into climate change. And you're going to use the EPA climate change packet, number 1, part 1, the EPA climate change packet, as your resource for the general introduction into climate change. Paragraph 2 is a little more of a specific introduction into climate change. Here you're going to give signs and evidence that lead people to believe climate change is occurring and what effects and impacts climate change can or may have on the environment. The source for this paragraph will be the EPA Climate Change Packet Part 2. So these are 2 assignments you've already done. Climate Change Part 1, Climate Change Part 2. Now we're going to use them for the paper. As we mentioned, there's essentially two introductory paragraphs. First paragraph is a general introduction. Second paragraph is more specific. So we're going to finish the second paragraph with our topic sentence for the remainder of the paper. That topic sentence being something along the lines of, much is being said about climate change. Something as simple as that. Or there is lots of information or thoughts in the world right now on climate change. Just something saying that you're going to be talking more about climate change. You can use this one exactly as a topic sentence, or you can reword it how you want. Now we are getting into the body of the paper. The first two paragraphs are the introduction. Paragraph 3 is a body of the paper paragraph. And this paragraph is going to be, again, what is being said about climate change. But what you're going to do is use Bill Nye Global Meltdown. So paragraph 3 might say something, I'll start off with something like, Bill Nye's Global Meltdown documentary discussed climate change in depth. Boom. I mean, that could be your topic sentence for your third paragraph, first paragraph of the body of the paper. Then you're going to use the Bill Nye Global Meltdown notes that you took. You were asked to write down around 16 or so things that were discussed in that video. You're going to assemble those things into a paragraph, and you're just going to say the things that were learned in the Bill Nye Global Meltdown video. The second paragraph of the body of the paper is what was said during the Cosmos World Set Free video. That was the second video you watched. Once again, you were asked to write down about 16 things that you found to be interesting about climate change. Here is where you're going to assemble them into a paragraph. You're going to say what Cosmos, the World Set Free, had to say about climate change. The final paragraph of the body of the paper, again, is going to be what is being said. But here you're going to summarize on this one, it was like 20 or so things you wrote down, or I don't know how many things you wrote down, but for sure it was 16 or more things. And that was the Leonardo DiCaprio Before the Flood video. You're going to tell us what that video said about climate change. So, first two paragraphs are introduction, 3, 4, 5 is body. Our sixth paragraph is a conclusion. In the sixth paragraph, you're just going to summarize the major things that you want the reader of your paper to take away as to what is being said about climate change in the world today. So there's our 6 paragraphs. Day 1, you're going to do the first 3 paragraphs. Day 2, you're going to do the second 3 paragraphs. So we've got a separate Google Doc for doing the first 3 paragraphs. Then we've got a second Google Doc for doing the second 3 paragraphs, paragraph 4, 5, and 6. That's day 2 of the writing. So now we're looking at the Google Doc for day 1 of the writing. This is where you're going to actually write your paper. You won't write anything on that directions and explanation sheet that we just went over. So day 1 of writing, you're going to complete the first 3 paragraphs. Paragraph number 1 was a general introduction into climate change. There's a rubric that you're going to follow for this first paragraph. In this first paragraph, we need you to explain essentially what climate change is, as though no one has ever heard about climate change. That's what you're doing in the first paragraph. Explain it like we've never heard anything about it. So the first thing, you're going to give us a definition of climate change. Click on this link, it'll take you to a definition. When you've got that definition done, you're going to keep track of what you've covered on the rubric by putting an X in this box, or whatever letter you want, but put an X in this box or a check in this box, signifying that you define climate change. Then in part 1 packet, they talked about the differences between weather, seasons, and climate. That was question 1A in the packet. You're going to do the same thing in your paper. You're going to explain the difference between weather, seasons, and climate. Then you're going to tell us the difference between climate change and global warming. Here's a link that will take you to those differences. Then you're going to explain that climate change has happened before, but you're going to tell us why it's different this time. That would correspond to 1D in part 1 of the EPA climate change packet. You're going to talk about the greenhouse effect in paragraph 1. That's question 2A. And you're going to tell us about what greenhouse gases are. What are the gases that are causing global warming? And that's the table on page 2 of the EPA Climate Change Packet Part 1. Right here in this box is where you'll start typing your paragraph. Obviously, it will go on to this page. So once you start typing in there, you might want to just bump that down so that first paragraph goes there. Paragraph 2 is a continuation of your introduction, but a more specific one. In paragraph 2, you're going to give us the signs and evidence that global warming is taking place and what effect it is going to have on our environment or is currently having on our environment. Our resource for this one is the EPA Climate Change Part 2 packet. We also have a rubric for this packet. In this paragraph, you're going to talk about the signs that climate change, global warming is happening. That's table 1 on the EPA Climate Change packet. You're going to discuss, not list, you're going to discuss in sentence form what are the signs of climate change, global warming happening. Then you're going to discuss the effects that it can or may have or currently is having on the environment. That's table 2 on the EPA Climate Change Packet Part 2. And then you're going to finish that with a sentence, your topic sentence. The topic sentence could be something along the lines of the topic of climate change has been on the forefront of world politics and scientific research. The actual sentence, much is being said about climate change and global warming. That will be the last sentence of your second paragraph. Again, discussing is different than listing. In your packets, EPA packet, you might have listed those things, but there was also discussion on those things. We want this paragraph in sentence form, not in list form. This paragraph should be like around 20 sentences minimum if you're looking at the number of things you're having to discuss. 11 and 8 is 19. Ending with an introduction sentence about what is being said in this video would be your first sentence. Your first sentence could be something along the lines of, or not video, but something along the lines of, much information has been researched on climate change. And then you're going to start telling us about the things that they have learned about climate change, signs that it is happening, the impact it could have on its environment. And then you can finish with the topic sentence for the body of your paper, much is being said. And that's where you're going to go to referencing the videos that we watched. Second paragraph goes in this box right here. As you've put these things into your paper, put a check mark on our rubric. Third paragraph is going to be Bill Nye's Global Meltdown. This is where we are getting into the body of the paper. Here you're going to use things from Bill Nye's Global Meltdown video. On this thing, you're going to track how many things that you suggest or say that were covered in Bill Nye's video. So here we go. First time you put something from the video, highlight that number. Second thing, highlight that number. So you're keeping track of how many things that you mention from Bill Nye's video in paragraph 3. And that will take care of how we're going to do the day 1 writing. That paragraph will go right here on the third paragraph. So all 3 of these paragraphs are going to be on the day 1 Google Doc. The information for each paragraph is discussed. Rubrics for each paragraph are listed there so you see what is in there. You're going to check things as you put them in your paper. First paragraphs from EPA Packet 1. Second paragraphs from EPA Climate Change Packet 2. Third paragraph are the interesting facts and things that you learned from Bill Nye's Global Meltdown video. And you need a minimum of 10 things. We put 14 here because a lot of you wrote more than 16, 17, 8 things. You're just going to pick the top 10 or so of the things that you found of great interest from Bill Nye's video, and you'll be done with day 1.